Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, and really our last show before the real meat of the NCAA tournament gets rolling, at least for those teams involving the Mountain West for sure. But shortened show for us today here on the Full Court Press because we've got the first four games, and we had them yesterday. We've got more today. We've got a couple of matchups, and one of them including a Mountain West Conference team. But before we get those, you'll hear Texas Southern versus Fairleigh Dickinson. Whew.
Thought it was Farley Dickinson.
Farley? I don't know.
I've been saying that, and I was correcting my brother on it. I should probably double check and make sure that I'm right on that.
But Texas Southern is the team that got into the tournament with 20 losses. 14 wins and 20 losses, if I remember correctly.
That's just, I think you're right, because I saw that as well. I was like, oh yeah, they have a losing record, which happens. It happens. Teams with losing records get into the tournament, and it's always a team that won their conference tournament, because I don't think it's possible for the committee to be able to justify it otherwise.
No, but my 11-year-old is enamored now with Texas Southern, that they have a losing record. They're in the tournament, so now he's pulling for them to pull off the win and get an extra game and see what they can do. So would they...
if they won the tournament, they would have a winning record by the end of it.
That's right. It would take that much.
It would take 7 games, because 6 normally, but since they're in a play-in game, they'd play 7. So if they win the whole thing, they will end the season
could end with the winning record.
With a 21-20 record.
Oh my gosh.
So I might be pulling for him too.
So we're going to primarily focus today's show on our final predictions for Mountain West Conference teams involved in the postseason. So that will include the NCAA tournament, that will include the NIT and the CBI, because Mountain West has representation in all of those tournaments. 4 teams in the NCAA, 1 team in the NIT, 1 in the CBI. And let's work backwards and build up towards the NCAA tournament. Let's start with the CBI. And actually, this is a team that will start the latest of all of these. That's San Jose State. They will be hosting Southern Indiana. The Spartans, big turnaround season for them compared to where they've been historically. They do get an opportunity to play in the postseason. When you look at the field of teams involved in the CBI, and let's be honest, it's not very impressive. San Jose should have a great opportunity to go deep in this tournament. There are no blue bloods in this tournament. There are no teams from what you would refer to as power conferences. San Jose State's probably the best representative in the field in that sense. But they come in with the number 2 seed overall as the second best team. Indiana State is the number 1 seed. But San Jose State will play against number 15 Southern Indiana, and they'll play on Saturday at 1:30. The game, I think, will be on Flow Hoops or Flow TV. Yeah, Flow Hoops. It's an online-only way of watching it.
That's how you know it's sort of irrelevant, is when you're streaming only. They do get all the way to ESPN2 by the end.
Yes.
But, yeah, first round's going to be hard to find. You're going to have to look for it, or I guess just since we've told you now, you can figure that out. But, yeah, I do like San Jose State's chances, obviously. As you say, there's no major conference teams, and so for a team like San Jose State, they should have the run of the place. Maybe there's some teams that can make some noise. I know Southern Utah, they were making some noise toward the end of the season. Obviously had that upset win over Utah Valley.
Yeah, but now their coach is leaving. He's getting hired away.
I guess that's true, so that may actually end up hurting them. So they actually, heaven knows, maybe I had forgotten about that. So, heck, that probably almost flips my entire opinion of that around.
But looking at some Ken Palm metrics, and I'm going to refer to these regularly through the show today, but San Jose, number 82 overall in offensive efficiency, number 120 in defensive efficiency. Compare that to Southern Indiana. They're 216 in offense, 314 in defense.
Yeah, this is the Southern Indiana team that feels like they're in the tournament because nobody else accepted the invitation. They're not the last seed. That's USC Upstate, I guess.
I don't even. Yeah, you look at some of these teams. Like I didn't even know that was a team.
That feels like a contradiction of terms. Is that like Southern California Upstate or is it South Carolina?
South Carolina.
There's like two options here. One of them doesn't make any. If it's South Carolina, fair enough. If it's Southern California, that's a contradiction because then it says Upstate, which is like the opposite usually. Usually it's referring to the northern part of the state, but maybe you'd have to look that up. It's bad when you don't even know the full name.
I don't even know a lot of these teams in the CBI. But look, the CBI really, and Utah State was involved in a tournament like this several years ago with Stu Morrill. Its purpose is if you've got some underclassmen and you're trying to build something, this is an opportunity to get more experience to prepare you for next year. If you've got a bunch of upperclassmen and you failed to reach the NIT or the NCAA tournament, then that doesn't really make a lot of sense for you to keep playing. It's like, look, we're done. It doesn't really make sense for us to do much more. But if you've been an underachieving program historically, or you've got a lot of younger players, this is a decent opportunity to extend your season. You get to host a couple of games. You still get your fans excited about still playing basketball. So it can serve a purpose. And for San Jose, yeah, sure. I think this is fine for them where they're trying to build a program that hasn't really existed in a long time.
Yeah, and the fact that they've just been, they've had zero postseason success for like a decade and a half. And to have a chance to be in a postseason, sure, it's not it's not glamorous. Very few people are going to care. But, it matters to these kids, and it matters to program building. When Utah State goes to the NIT last year, it's not the same thing, but it's, kind of being able to say, okay, we went to the postseason.
Right.
Like how, page one of their media guide says 4 straight postseason appearances. Little asterisk that says one of those was the NIT. But next year they're going to say 5 straight.
Yeah.
And they can say that.
Yeah, NIT is a respectable postseason tournament.
Yeah.
So
it's respectable enough. The CBI, obviously, it's different, but you are looking to build yourself up and give yourself a little bit of extra achievement by this.
So if San Jose State wins, which they should, they'll play the winner of Tarleton and Radford. Again, some household names. But that'll be early next week. It's kind of a different schedule. So they play, San Jose will play on Saturday, then they turn around and play on Monday. If they advance further, then the semifinals are next Wednesday. Those will be on ESPN2, and the championship will be on the 22nd, also on ESPN2. So it's kind of a short tournament, not very many teams involved, but still opportunity for some national spotlight, if you will, or into early next week if they do well. And then going on to the NIT, this is a little bit more respectable postseason. It's a smaller bracket now. The last few years, they do it a little bit differently. They give teams seeding 1 through 4 in different brackets, and the other teams are just not seeded. You don't really know, but you can kind of guess. But New Mexico.
It's kind of weird, like how it was like when they had the volleyball, like the NCAA tournament for volleyball. They only seed like the top 16 or something like that. They go like 1 through 16, and nobody else gets a seed.
Yeah, it is a little bit different.
I don't get that. Why would you just not give everyone a seed? Like, you obviously have organized it in some form or fashion that they have to have some kind of number attached.
Because if you're a designated seed, you get to host the first round. And if you're still the higher seed, then you get to host the second round. There's something different this year where normally NIT is your reward is playing. If you make it to the semifinals, you get to go to Madison Square Garden. And it's different now. They're sending it to Las Vegas.
Of course,
as we've talked earlier this week. But it'll be in the Orleans Arena, which that kind of surprises me. A decent arena, but not the largest. But maybe they feel like, based on the participation from fans, this is probably the best place to hold this venue for the championship of the NIT.
Yeah, I don't know. And if you get to the championship of the NIT, there is some recognition in that, and you can get some excited because, NIT runs can be fun. It's a consolation prize.
Yeah.
But, you can sometimes get behind a consolation prize. If you lost the first or second game in the NIT, it's like last year. Nobody really likes to remember Utah State's, they just lost in the first round of the NIT. But if they'd have made it all the way to the semifinals of the championship game, heck yeah, they'd remember that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it's a consolation prize, but it's still a prize. And fans
and
can get excited about it.
there are good teams involved in the NIT. Oregon, Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, some recognizable names, Oklahoma State. So these are the teams that just missed out on going to the NCAA tournament. And that includes New Mexico. They will host Utah Valley. That's coming up tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN+. New Mexico, as we know, can be a good offensive team. They can struggle defensively, though, as they showed against Utah State. UVU is kind of opposite. They are not the most dynamic offensively, but a better defensive team. So this will be kind of a strength versus strength when New Mexico's on offense and Utah Valley's on defense.
Yeah, it makes it so hard to pick these games. Because, all right, one team's good at offense, one team's really good at defense. Which one wins? And on any given night, one will dominate the other. It doesn't feel like there's a rule with this. A lot of times we say, great offense beats great defense, but, that's often on just an individual play. What's going to happen the rest of the game? And we've seen how New Mexico, they struggled against Utah State's defense. They really struggled against that, a disciplined defense that forced hard shots and rebounded. If Utah Valley does that, then they may not have all that much problem against New Mexico, especially since the Lobos are a lot worse than they were earlier in the season. At least they're playing a lot worse.
Yeah, true.
Granted, if Utah Valley gets a lead, it won't be a safe lead, given what we know. That hopefully that's just a one-off, but it's hard. I think it should be a good game, but it's hard for me to really predict just because flip a coin. Which team's strength ends up coming away with this? If Mexico just has a hot game offensively, they'll roll Utah Valley. But if they're not having a hot offensive game, then maybe that gives the Wolverines a bit more of a chance.
And it'll be interesting to see, how these teams come together tonight, just with their motivation. New Mexico, a team that, as you detailed, faltered down the stretch to close out the season. Utah Valley, they had full hopes and expectations that they would be the automatic qualifier from the Western Athletic Conference. They were the best team in the conference for much of the season, and they had a bad foul at the wrong moment in the tournament that resulted in a 4-point play and bounced them out of the conference tournament. So will they come into tonight salty over that loss in Las Vegas, wanting to prove something we're better than that, or that they're just deflated that they didn't make it and going to the NIT just isn't what they had hoped for and planned for all year? Yeah,
that's usually the argument you wind up making with Power 5 teams in bowl games. Are they mad they didn't get into the bigger bowl game, or do they just, kind of give up? So we'll see. Because, Utah Valley, they were in most every bracket had them as the automatic qualifier out of the WAC. I think there's every chance they're going to come into this and think, okay, we didn't get into the tournament, but we're going to make a run in the NIT. That they're going to have that real motivation. Because it is kind of program building for them. Utah Valley doesn't have a whole lot of history. This could have been their year with history. But I think they're going to try and make up for that and get that consolation prize if they can. So I think they'll probably be a little bit more motivated than New Mexico, who've just kind of been dealing with the entire back half of the season, coming to grips with the fact that they're not a tournament team and that they're not nearly as good as they thought they were.
Yeah, New Mexico is favored by 5.5. The game will be played in the pit. So, yeah, I don't know.
That's tough.
We'll see.
That gives New Mexico an advantage, a big advantage there.
Yeah, it's a great venue.
But
fan base is trying to help that team get back on track after a disappointing close to the season. Then shifting to the other Mountain West Conference teams in the NCAA tournament, there's another game going on tonight. This will be among the first four. This will be the second game of the doubleheader here on the Fan this evening. It'll be Nevada versus Arizona State, the 11 seeds playing for the honor to advance and play again in the tournament. But Nevada, kind of one of the last teams in, really kind of a surprise bubble team that still got in despite a poor performance in the Mountain West Conference tournament. Arizona State, a team that's had some ups and downs in the Pac-12 as well. And Coach Steve Alford earlier this week said Arizona State reminds him a lot of UNLV, maybe just a little bit bigger. And that's not great because UNLV beat up on Nevada both times they played them.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think just the way that Nevada was ending the season, it's really hard for me to pick them to win this game. I'd like to think that they have every chance, and they really do have every chance to win this game because they have talented kids on their team. They have some scorers, guys who can go out there and get a bucket. But we show that they can just be really volatile, and they're kind of, they're on their back leg. They're not playing nearly as well right now. And so going up against, major conference team, better athletes, more length, more athleticism, I just have a hard time seeing Nevada come away with this unless they just play their best game of the year, which I have a hard time seeing that because they haven't been playing their best basketball for like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, there's an advantage, too, in that Steve Alford coached in the Pac-12 for a long time, and he's familiar with Arizona State and who they are and what they want to do.
Yeah, you're only as good as your players, though, when it comes to coaching. It's like...
No, but it's true. But at least he kind of has an idea of what his opponent is all about and maybe a little bit more familiar with them than if you were to just, all of a sudden, like Utah State, you have to play a team like Missouri. You've never seen them before, never familiar with their coach or their players or their system. So it's a little bit different there, but still, I agree. When you look at some of the metrics on these teams, Arizona State, a good defensive team, not the best offensively. Nevada has moments where they can be really dynamic offensively and pretty decent defensively as well. Nevada looked like they could be favored in this one. In fact, I got to pull it up. I haven't checked. But I actually think this one could be kind of close.
Yeah, I think KenPom has them as like a 1 or 2 point favorite, maybe. I might be mixing them up with somebody else.
So I've got Arizona State favored by 2.
Okay. I may have had it confused with one of the other Mountain West games, but Mountain West teams are surprisingly enough favored in most of these games, despite the fact that 3 of them are nominally underdogs in the seedings they're paired up in.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, Nevada's probably the one that I have the least. Surprisingly enough, despite the fact that they're even, seed, and you look at KenPom, I think Nevada's in the 40s or something like that, and Arizona State's like 71 or something like that.
Yeah,
if I'm remembering that right.
Yeah, it's got to be that.
Yeah, there's 68,
okay,
and then Nevada is 43, so it's close. So, but still, I don't know. That's where it comes down to a bit of momentum and just, like I said, I think Nevada has every chance, but it just comes down to the fact they don't have confidence they're going to play well, play up to their potential, because they haven't been doing that. So that's where I'd end up picking Arizona State here.
I'm going to go with the Mountain West, not just to be.
That's a dangerous road you're going down there.
Just to be a Mountain West homer.
I trust the Mountain West in the NCAA tournament. Eric Frandsen, 2023.
I know.
Famous last words.
They, as we talked about earlier in the week, they haven't really shown a lot of trust. We shouldn't be trusting the Mountain West in the NCAA tournament. Not a lot of modern success. But I look at Nevada as a team that has. Look, I know this could apply for both teams, but underperformed below what their abilities are. But I think that's a team that has a rich history of having some success and a coach who knows how to play and coach in those types of situations. So I'm going to go with Nevada. I'm going to give Nevada the slight edge in that one. And then shifting to Thursday, 2 Mountain West teams involved in the same venue but in different times of the day. Utah State in the morning, Boise State in the afternoon, both in Sacramento, both as 10 seeds going up against 7 seeds. And let's make sure we have time for Utah State. The Aggies will face Missouri, and it'll be 11:40 a.m. is the scheduled tip time, which means it'll be the morning session, one of the earlier games of the day, and we'll have it here on The Fan. We're going to be having a lot of NCAA tournament basketball games. We can't guarantee we'll have the full wire-to-wire broadcast, but hopefully we get a lot of it. But Utah State and Missouri, two teams that really have their biggest strengths is on offense, and one of the top teams in the country, both of them in offense. Utah State ranked 13th and Missouri 10th. And so this could be one where the first team to 85 wins the game.
Yeah, certainly it does make it hard to pick in that sense. Like, all right, who's going to have better offense? Although it may just come down to who has the better defense. And the thing with this game, I struggle to pick. I've gone back and forth about 2 or 3 times on who I think is going to win this game. And really what it comes down to is it's picking between historical trends, which listeners will know I like to read a lot into historical trends. And then there's just about all the on-paper stuff that I've seen between these two teams suggests Utah State has an edge. And so I'm picking between those two things. Which do I believe? That Utah State just struggles? And the thing is, when I looked at Utah State against Texas Tech, I thought they had some edges on paper there. Even more so against Washington. They had they had an edge on paper there. And they lost those 2 games by double digits each.
Yeah.
They really struggled. It just came down to playing better athletes that were more physical and could just beat up on the Aggies. A level of team size and athleticism and length that the Aggies just aren't used to facing night in and night out. So am I going to go with what I've seen on paper or what I've seen on the court with these kind of matchups? And so it makes it really hard. And I'm still not sure. I think I'm just going to go with what I've seen on paper. I think the Aggies, there are a few differences. One is that the Aggies aren't facing a defensive-centric team. Texas Tech and Washington were both very good defenses.
Yes.
Missouri is not. Their defensive style is more in the way of UNLV. We're going to try and force a turnover, or you're going to make a shot. There's like one of 2 options.
Right, yeah.
So I think with that and just wanting to pick Utah State, I think I'm going to go with them. There's a lot of good reasons to pick Utah State, so I'm comfortable enough picking Utah State. But I may change my mind 2 or 3 times before the end of the day.
I'm going to go for Utah State in this one. I like that the big difference here for me, yeah, they're both good offensive teams. But for Missouri, well, let me put it this way. If Utah State can take care of the ball and just not have unforced errors where they gift turnovers and catastrophic turnovers where they quickly turn into points for Missouri, then Utah State's going to have a really good chance on this one. Because if Missouri doesn't get a lot of turnovers, they're not nearly as efficient offensively. And I think Utah State is a better defensive team than Missouri is. So I really like where Utah State is trending over these last 3 weeks of not just offense, but also primarily defense. I think they will be the ones making it difficult for Missouri to score and do what they want to do. So I like the Aggies in this one. You never know going up a team from a bigger conference who plays a much more difficult schedule. But the Mountain West Conference was a pretty tough run as it was for Utah State. So I'm going to still go with the Aggies in this one. Aggies are favored by 1.5, but I'm going to say Aggies by. I'll even say Aggies by 4.
Yeah, I think my points prediction I think was initially 3 points, and then I was like, well, if Utah State's up by 2 or 3 points by the end, I don't know if it'll come down to the very last. So I think I ended up just saying I think I had it 79-73, mostly off of the free throws at the end will bump them up.
Right, yeah.
I think this is a game that down to the wire is going to be within a possession or 2, and then one team ends up going ahead by 6, 7, 8 points because of those free throws. Yeah, kind of like what just happened in the Mountain West Championship game.
That makes sense. And I know we're running out of time here, but quickly, just our thoughts on Boise State and Northwestern, another 10-7 matchup. Just like Utah State and Missouri are among the best in offense, this will be a game featuring 2 of the best defensive teams. Boise State 14th in KenPom, Northwestern 13th in defensive efficiency.
Yeah, this is where if you're a betting person, which I wouldn't recommend, but you bet the over on Utah State, Missouri, and you bet the under on Boise State, Northwestern.
Yes.
Because you're going to have a high-scoring game, and it's going to be a low-scoring game. These teams might get into the 60s because they're going to be well-rested, but they're both going to be beating each other up defensively, and especially because neither of these teams, in terms of the way they're trending, are playing well on offense to begin with. So unless they suddenly break out and play really good offense in this game, then this will be a game that's in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, I would imagine mid-50s, low 60s in this one would probably be possible. Northwestern's favored by 1.5. I've picked Northwestern to win this one. Just I don't like how Leon Rice, his teams trend this time of the year, and I don't think this year's any different.
I'm going to pick Boise State because I can.
There you go. Very good. So full wall-to-wall coverage here on The Fan of the NCAA basketball, including the Utah State Aggies tomorrow morning. And if we've got a lot more to discuss, if you want to go hear more, we're going to be putting more information on a bonus podcast on 1069thefan.com with more predictions about the NCAA tournament. Until then, see you next week.